everyone. It's 6:01. I'm so glad that you're here for this very important conversation. It's an honor for me to be here representing Spectrum News. If I look tired, it's because I was there at 3 o'clock this morning doing your morning news. But part of our commitment to all things politics across Central Florida is that now we have a Monday through Friday politics show, nightly. Oh, Dios mío, I'm tired. That's how big politics is for Spectrum News, and that's our dedication. When Alianza came calling, I really got to know them for the first time when I did an event a couple of weeks ago with them, with Marcos and with Angel and everybody else. And here's something that it's not on my script, but I find fascinating because there's a lot of, oh yeah, I've been here since 1981. There's this group and that nonprofit and this group trying to get the outreach and this and the other. But I haven't seen any, honestly, that are doing what they're doing. They have a summer camp, so they get to be with kids, help out families. What does that say about Alianza? They're out in the community, really getting to know our families. Blue collar, hardworking, trying to connect the dots, get from point A to point B, paycheck to paycheck every 2 weeks, and figure things out. So this is the real world, the conversations that we're having here tonight. I want to bring up Marcos Villar, founder and executive director of Alianza for Progress, to talk about the organization. And we're going to ping pong the flow of tonight as to how we're going to keep this orderly and professional, because we want to get everybody's point of view. So thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Yvette. First of all, I'd like to, I noticed there's a few candidates for other offices that are in the room. I know Jackie Centeno's here. Please a round of applause for her. She's running for state rep. And we have Angel Cova, who's running for the school board. We have John Cortez, who's former state representative, now running for mayor. Which reminds me, this Monday, we're having another meeting like this over at Florida Technical College, same time, 6 p.m. And we'll be having a conversation with all of the candidates that are running for mayor here in Kissimmee. So that's another hot one that's coming up in a few days. There's another candidate in the room. Yes? Noel Ortiz is running for re-election in the city of Kissimmee. Oh, election, for election, okay. Pardon me for that mistake, but a hand for him as well. When we started out 6 years ago at Alianza for Progress, we wanted to make a point that there wasn't enough representation in our community in public office, right? And I think that 8 years after our work here began, it actually began before we founded the organization. The organization is 6 years old, but we started doing this work 8 years ago. And I think that if you fast track then to now, we cannot say that we don't have representation anymore. At every level of government, from Congress to school board, we have Latinos in office. In Osceola County, in Orange County, in Volusia County, in Hillsborough County, and even in counties like Pinellas, we have candidates running for office as well. And that obviously is not just our work as Alianza, it's many other organizations and many other communities, but it is a growing community that's coming of age. And our job is to make sure that we have the representation in the places of power and the decision-making places for our Hispanic community. However, it's not just because you're Hispanic that you should run for office. This is a democracy, and all our neighbors, everybody, regardless of whether you are Hispanic, African-American, Asian, white, it doesn't matter. We're all neighbors. We're all going to the same schools. We all drive the same roads. We all share so much in common that it's important that all of us have representation. And so at this point, I think we've reached a certain level. Now our goal is to elevate the level of those who represent us in office, regardless of what their background may be. So like I said, my name is Marcos Villar. I'm the founder and executive director of Alianza for Progress. Alianza for Progress, in its mission, seeks to unite the Puerto Rican and Hispanic populations in Florida and develop leaders from within the community that will support progress in our community. Our commitment to establishing genuine relationships with the Puerto Rican and Latino community, its leaders, its allies, and our neighbors drives us every day to ensure that we seek to educate our community about the important issues that affect us. And certainly who's going to be in the sheriff's office is an important issue to us. Today we have 5, hopefully at some point we'll have the 6th candidate for sheriff, running for sheriff this year, to have a discussion about what their vision is for that office. Why are they seeking office at this point? And I want to remind you again that on Monday, July 15th, just a few days from today, we'll be meeting at Florida Tech College here at Plaza del Sol Mall, and again, to hear the candidates for mayor.
Plaza del Sol Mall has these little tiny donuts. It's a Hispanic couple from Puerto Rico. I literally drive from Orlando for those tiny donuts que son bien ricas. Okay.
Do they make them in a little like they come out?
Yeah, or you watch them.
You
They
watch
come
them,
out,
yeah.
and it's locally owned. It's the husband and wife duo.
Those are
They're
so good.
tiny. They have little sauces you can pick. I come here all the time, even though I live in Orlando. I love to take Sunrail and just hop out. And I meet with different volunteer groups. I shop here. There's a Venezuelan store that has great jeans and restaurants. And it's just nice to get around Central Florida. So this is a place very near and dear to my heart. Let's go ahead and go through the list of what's going to happen tonight. So we're gonna start by explaining some procedures. If you get confused and like, wait, was it my turn, this turn? We'll figure things out. Instructions for the candidates, okay? So this is for all of you. You will have 2 minutes to start, okay? So your opening statement, and then on the back end, you'll also have 2 minutes for your closing statement. To answer your questions, you'll have 90 seconds, so that's 1.5 minutes. Opening and closing statements will be made in a following order. So if we start from one end, we'll go this way, and then we'll end the opposite direction. There's a timekeeper in the front. Hello to you, sitting in the first row. When there's a half minute left on your speaking time, the timekeeper will hold up a card that says 30 seconds, indicating you have 30 seconds to finish your answer. At 15 seconds, timekeeper will hold up a card that says 15 seconds. You basically catch my drift. There's a stop card. So if we need to slow it down here and get you to wrap up. Personal references, attacks, that'll be out of order. All right, guys and gals, we need to make sure that people are just respectful in a world of madness right now. Please let Osceola County be the beacon of reasoning, my opinion, during this very interesting times that we're living. Cameras are in the back of the room. Hello to the cameras. And I see you guys with your smartphones. Alianza has been incredible putting out the images on every single social media platform. And I work in TV. We know how this works. TV, yes. But the first thing you do when you roll out of bed is grab that phone and look at pictures and videos. Hopefully you're downloading the Spectrum News app, which you can download for free, whether every 10 minutes, 24 hours a day. So we'll have images, videos of everything on social media, and make sure you tag Alianza as well. Instructions to the audience, because we have quite a few people here tonight. Turn off your cell phones, pretty please. Beeping watches also fall into that category. We request that you treat all candidates fairly, as we told our candidates tonight. Remain quiet through the forum, no clapping, cheering, calling out, with the exception that after the closing statements, you may clap for all candidates if you wish. No campaign literature or signs are allowed inside the room. You are encouraged to submit questions, but we have so many candidates, which is very different than the last time I was here, that we're gonna do any kind of questions from the audience, whether it's online at the end, as opposed to after each section, because we wanna make sure we hear the platforms from every candidate. We will present the questions at some point, if time allows, at the end. So any clarification, make sure you're clear with the point of your questions, etc. Questions from the audience, if we get to that point here, will be taken in the middle of the room. We have the one and only Angel Sepulveda, who's monitoring social media and will present any questions that we get from social media as well. I think we're ready to shake and bake. What do you think? Yeah, let's do it. Because what time is it? We're like NASA. We got to get going.
Well, to
6:11.
the audience, let's give an audience of everybody that showed up tonight. We have a room that's almost full.
Yeah.
And if it's like the other days, we'll be getting some more of these seats filled out as the evening progresses.
Okay, chévere. Pues entonces, let's go ahead and do the start of the opening statements. So we're going to get my little list that I was writing earlier. Remember that? So we're going to start from the opposite side of the room. Mr. Willie Black, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. It's Wiley Black. Sorry about that, but I've been called a lot worse, but it's Wiley Black. I'm a military veteran and over 32 years at the Osceola County Sheriff's Office. I got 4 kids, beautiful wife, 4 grandkids. All of my kids have raised and went to school here in Osceola County. My entire law enforcement career has been here with Osceola County. I've risen up through the ranks, and when I left the sheriff's office last November, I was at the rank of major. I've either participated, supervised, or commanded just about all the units inside the sheriff's office, from patrol to K9. I was first sergeant of aviation, a narcotics unit, homicide unit, sex crimes unit, just about everything that at the sheriff's office except for the service center, dispatch, or the courthouse. And I humbly ask for your vote August 20th, 2024. Thank you.
Okay, let's move on now to Luis Tony Fernandez. 2 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening. Buenas noches. I want to say thank you to Alianza for the invitation. And I want to say this in Spanish. Yo soy Luis Fernández, todo el mundo me conoce como Tony, nacido y criado en Aguadilla, Puerto Rico. Soy coquí de pura cepa. I'm born and raised in Aguadilla, Puerto Rico, and I grew up over there. So I'm a pure Puerto Rican, not disguised. I don't know if my accent, can tell you that, but, I think I'm the only Puerto Rican born and raised in Puerto Rico. And I have a wife, and we have 7 kids together. We got 8 grandkids. We got 2 dogs. And I moved here in 2000. I used to be a law enforcement in Puerto Rico PD. And I was assigned to the governor's office back in the 90s. Pedro Rosselló, the governor back then. And I was honored to serve in his office. And also I work and participated on the NGA, National Governor Association. And I was assigned to the governor at the time, Paul Payton, and I was the liaison from him. He made me honorable colonel for the service that I did. I thought I was going to have a Kentucky Fried Chicken for free, but it wasn't that. It was just, an honor for serving. And I did 15 years in Osceola County. I was FTO, I was firearm instructor, and I was a driving instructor. And that was my passion, to teach and show the recruits how to be a real cop. And actually, right now, I'm working for the Inspector General's office. I'm a detective / inspector investigating all the high crimes inside the prisons, murder, you name it. So that's what I'm doing right now. Thank you.
Okay, we continue down the line here. Now, Donnie Martinez.
Yes, ma'am. I'm Donnie Martinez, and I was raised right here in Osceola County. And I'm part of the founding fathers of Osceola County. We go way back before my time and my grandmother's time. So I've been here for a long time. And I also want to say I just got out of the academy about a year ago. So I'm up to date on the training and the most current training they have at the academy. I've been in the business world I've ran successfully my own businesses for over half a decade, and I've done very well at doing that. I'm looking to bring a new approach to the sheriff's office where we can get out and engage with our community and get out and understand about our community, the cultures. How do we, talk to them, where we go through the communities and what we do to engage with the communities, because we got to rebuild the trust and a bond that we've lost a long time ago with the sheriff's office. And with that, I want to say that my big 3 on my platform is tools, technology, and training. When I say training, I mean ongoing training, from the simplest things, how to write a police report to how to deal with difficult people and all the way to active shooters. We need more training because when the citizens call on us, we need to be there for them and we need to be at our best. So when we show up, we need to be the best we can be. And also my core values that I'm running under is making sure that we arrive timely. We're there when you call us. And number two is credibility. When we say something, we mean it. And we also want to engage with the people that are part of that problem that happened that time. Also, number three, professionalism. We're always professional. And number four, value driven. When we get out and you receive a value from, even if we write you a ticket, you're receiving a
you.
value.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Time
you.
is up. Let's continue now with Amarilis Rivera, 2 minutes.
He's over here trying to take my time. So my name's Amaryllis, and as you know, I'm running for sheriff. I try not to talk too much about myself, but just to show, that I am qualified, just as all of us have our experiences in certain areas. I joined the military at 19 years old, straight out of high school. After 9/11, I decided that I wanted to join and serve my country. So I served 16 years in the Air Force. I signed up and I did active duty. I was stationed in Germany, and then I did the rest of the time reserves while working full-time at the sheriff's office. I worked at the sheriff's office for almost 17 years. And 9 of those years, I ended up in patrol over the community service officers. One thing that is unique to me that some people may find as a weakness is that I am coming from a civilian position. And as most of you know, the sheriff's job isn't to be out there making arrests. It's to ensure that, we have all the checks and balances within the agency, and his primary job is mostly administrative. So that's where I feel that I kind of can step in on and understand from both sides, from the civilian side and the sworn side, just because of the position that I worked in. I have a bachelor's degree in criminal justice administration. And a little bit about my platform. My most important things that I want to focus on is recruiting and retention. People don't realize how short we are in the agency. And when I mean short, it doesn't mean just what the sheriff's office has and how they haven't filled all those positions. But according to the FBI, we should have 2.4 officers for every 1,000 residents. Osceola County has grown immensely. So according to that, we have about 500,000 people, and that puts us at, we should have about 1,200 officers. Right now, the sheriff's office has 475. So that's a huge difference. Now, that would also include KPD and St. Cloud PD, but between the both of them, they have about 280. So it still leaves us over 400 officers short. My second is training, which I won't have much time to talk.
Okay, time's up. Thank you for that. And now we continue with Russ Gibson. 2 minutes, sir.
My name is Russ Gibson, and I'm the former sheriff here in Osceola County. I've been with the agency for more than 32 years as a whole. I started my career up in Ohio, where I went to the police academy in Youngstown. I was with the Brookfield Township Police Department for a couple of years up there. And that was after I joined the United States Army at the age of 17 years of age. So service is all I've ever done in my entire life, and that's all I really know. Even now, I'm a small business owner where we provide security services for some businesses out on the West Side corridor. And I'm proud of that fact because it's just an opportunity to continue to give and to serve. In 32 years in law enforcement, I've done a lot of things at that agency. I started in corrections and went to patrol, and from there to CID. And I worked with many of the folks here on the stage. So we want to serve and protect each and every one of you and the people in our community. That's what we've done. That's what we want to continue to do. And that's what we will do. So it's nice to be here tonight. I thank Alianza and the moderators for having us here and for giving us this opportunity to be heard. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to remind everyone that we will be taking questions online. So there's people watching tonight through Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. All of it live, and they're able to ask questions. If there's anyone in the audience that would like to ask a question, you can go into the Facebook channel also and write your question in, and Angel will be fielding those questions and interjecting them maybe as they fit properly into the conversation that we're having at the time. Again, thank you all for being here, and let's get started.
Okay, so since we started the opening statements on the upper side of the table, I was going to now start the questioning on the opposite side. This chair is currently empty. So we will continue the question now, Q&A, and we'll start with Mr. Russ Gibson and work our way down. So here we go. Between 2010 and 2022, there has been a dramatic increase in the number of Latinos living in Osceola County, with percentages around 57% being reported. Those numbers fluctuate here and there, but it is explosive growth that's happening all across Central Florida. I've said this before in other chats. 1,000 people a day move to the state of Florida, according to the Orlando Economic Partnership, 1,000 a week to Central Florida. So many people moving here. So with that said, if elected, what will you do in order to ensure that your agency provides culturally and linguistically appropriate services to this continually growing community? Mr. Gibson.
Well, it's been my pure belief that the change really starts at the top. And that's where the tone is actually set. So on day one, when the swearing-in ceremony takes place, my team, my staff, my administrative command staff, which is the easiest folks to put together based on their qualifications and experience levels, is what you're going to see surrounding me, behind me, supporting me. You will see a true reflection of the community that we are going to take an oath to protect. And that's where it all begins. People want to see a mirrored reflection of themselves when they look at the administrative command staff of the office. When you see that command staff and that tone is set at the top, that is going to have a trickle-down effect into the people that want to come on board with the agency. And that's where strategic recruitment comes into place. So I have ideas on how to recruit, where to recruit, and who to recruit. But with time constraints, that may be another question that we could tackle here tonight. And if not, you can always contact me, but I'm happy to share that. But we want to see and hire people that are a reflective image of the people that live in our community. And that's what we're going to do with the Gibson command staff that's going to be taking place.
One of the things that we didn't tell you is that this first question has two parts,
Oh.
A and B. So we gave you A, and now we're going to do B, which just piggybacks on what you just said.
Okay.
And by the way, all of you will get the same two questions. How will you handle, is part B of this question, how will you handle the recruitment, retention, and promotion of individuals, we want specifics, to all ranks and aspects of the Osceola County Sheriff's Office that will reflect those that they are serving? We talked about the growing numbers of Latinos.
Well, just with recruitment real quick, I want to use what we have available, which are our 12 high schools here in Osceola County. Every year we have between 4,000 and 6,000 graduates. I want to make sure that we have career days at these different schools with our recruiting team, and to get into these schools and get these seniors who lots of folks don't want to go to college. They don't have that idea, but they don't really know what's available to them at their sheriff's office. Bringing these people in as interns, these students in as interns, as clerks, and looking at them as future employees of the sheriff's office, meaning deputy sheriff positions. While I was sheriff, I put a 9-year step plan in place, a 9-year step plan. So if you started at, now it's 52,000 and change, 9 years from now, you would know exactly what you were going to top out at, and it would take you that roadmap. That's what recruits want to see. They want to know that they're going to have protection at their agency. They want to know that there's a roadmap to get from the starting pay to top out pay. That's something that I put in place. It's not something that I talk about doing. It's something that I did do. And I took all the employees that were making them a minimum wage salary, other than the part-time folks, and they went to a $15 an hour wage, which was a living wage. I was the only agency in the state of Florida that actually got that done. We all talked about a living wage in the state of Florida, talking about different sheriffs and chiefs of police, but I was the only one that actually did that. So we want to really recruit from our schools, and from those schools, you're going to get people right from our community.
Okay, thank you. And we'll continue down the line. So Amarilis Rivera, question A for that. If elected, what will you do in order to ensure that your agency provides culturally and linguistically appropriate services to this continuously growing community?
Yeah, so for one, that's why my top priority is recruiting and retention, because I understand the need. And right now, I have to say the diversity is pretty good as far as patrol. And we do a pretty good job at trying to recruit diversity. However, I think I'm the type of person that I don't look at the diversity alone. I think it's more about qualifications. And that's an issue that we've had in the past where certain people got certain positions just because they wanted to meet that diversity quota. But I think it's important to focus on, okay, is this person qualified to do this job? And I want diversity. I have several people that I want for my administration, but I chose them because of their qualifications, not because of their diversity. And do you want me to just go on to the next?
You can go on to
question?
B, absolutely. How will you handle recruitment, retention, and promotion of individuals to all ranks and aspects of the Osceola County Sheriff's Office that will reflect those who they are serving?
So retention is a huge issue right now. And part of it is just the morale is really bad. When people are unhappy where they're working, they tend to leave for a little bit of money. We've never gotten paid what Orange County or OPD gets paid. They've always made more money than us. So why is it that now so many people are leaving? And that is because, not the money, because they've always gotten paid more than us, but because of the morale. They're unhappy. It's very toxic work environment. So that, to me, the way to fix that and the retention is just by trying to work on fixing the morale and making the officers happy and feel that we have their back. As far as recruiting, I think that we don't recruit enough right now. We have an academy here and they barely even come out to the school. And it's important to make sure that we're recruiting not just within Florida, but out of state. I think that we have to go to different states to try and bring people, because we're living in an era where a lot of people don't want to work in law enforcement. One thing that Marcos Lopez is doing is that he's recruiting from Puerto Rico. I think that that's actually a great idea. However, we've barely had any of them pass because there's nothing in place where we can get them to where they need to be. So for example, in Puerto Rico, they teach you to speak English in schools. However, the reading and the writing isn't going to be great. And here, all of our reports have to be done in English. So most of the people
Okay.
that they're recruiting are not passing because of that.
Okay, thank you. Same questions to you, Mr. Donny Martinez. Do you want me to read it again?
Yeah, you might.
Okay, yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely. It's a long one. They're long. If elected, what would you do in order to ensure that your agency provides culturally and also linguistically appropriate services to this continuously growing community?
Well, first, I would like to, like I'm doing now, I'm going out and I'm engaging in the community. I want to hear their concerns. I want to hear their voices, because what about running the sheriff's office, you need to listen to the citizens, because sometimes the citizens have a voice and they need to be heard on some of these issues. And like I was out doing door to door, and I heard a lot of these issues, and a lot of these issues come up to be, well, our laws in Puerto Rico are different from here. So I understand that, but they're different in every state. But it's like they were saying, we need to also make sure that we can engage in getting out there and making sure that we are training them and showing them our laws by getting out there and putting it on Facebook. Here's the most common laws, educating them on our laws, because I know they're not going to do it without us educating them. So we need to take the first step to educate and making sure they understand our laws, because every state has different laws. They just need to make sure that we practice what we do in Osceola County and make sure they understand that. And if they understand that, we can get along a lot more comfortable, I say, because they understand how we operate and laws about speeding and driving down the side of the road and cutting off people. We can't do that here. And we need to address this situation, because driving right now on the roads, they're out of control. People are getting killed every day. So we need to say, what is the problem here? Looking outside in, what can we do to change this? We need to change this type of culture.
Okay, so part B on this was, how will you handle recruitment and retention and promotion of individuals of all ranks and aspects of the Osceola County Sheriff's Office that will reflect those who they are serving?
Well, on recruitment, I would start at the schools, but I would start in a mentor program where we get out there and we mentor them and we let them know what working at the sheriff's office is like. And, having retired deputies come back in and, sit down and talk to the kids, rebuild that relationship that we've lost throughout the years, because it's important that we have a relationship with these graduates that are coming out of high school. Also, we need to expand on that. We need to look at first, what are we paying them? We're paying them hardly anything to start with this. We need to look at our pay structure. We need to, reorganize this pay structure, because if we're going to be competitive, who wants to go out and get shot at? first of all. Who wants to go out and get hit by another car when you're trying to get to a scene? We need to look at what we're doing. We need to change within inside ourselves and say, hey, we can do better than this. We can offer more money. Right now, we're number 65 in the county for pay. We need to be at least number 10, because the money is in this county. This county is the fastest growing county in the state. We have the money. We have the funds. We need to use these funds. We need to get out and also go not just looking at the high schools. We need to look at the colleges. We need to recruit from the middle age, because look at me. I just got out of the academy. And I tell you what, it was the greatest thing in the world to go to that academy, because it put me in shape, first of all, because I had to practice before I even went in there. And, you kind of get settled with what you like, but sometimes it's good to do different things. And everybody needs a chance to go through the academy. And thank you.
Okay, let's continue now and go to, yes, Luis Tony Fernandez.
Yes.
Same questions to you. If elected, what would you do in order to ensure that your agency provides culturally and linguistically appropriate services to this community that's growing by leaps and bounds?
Well, who better than the sheriff to be Puerto Rican? What example? No better example than that. I will encourage them that the same way that I prosper myself and I progress myself, they can do it. And I encourage them to speak the language when they come over. It's important. And don't be afraid because the accent, because they've been criticized my accent all the time, because that's the only thing they can criticize about me, because I've never been fired from any job. I've never been involved in any scandal. So they have to look for something. So they look for my accent. And sometimes people reframe themselves because they're afraid of the criticism. So I'll be the example for them that, yes, we can do it. Sí se puede. And doesn't matter where you go, you come with respect, you come to obey the law, educate yourself, prosper yourself, and you can achieve whatever you want. So as the next sheriff, I'll be the great example for them when they come as a Hispanic, that we can do whatever we can decide to do in our heart.
How would you handle part B of that, is a recruitment, retention, promotion within the department to reflect the growing community?
This is the most easy part. Everybody can talk about go here, go there, start recruiting. I'm going to start with my deputies. I'm going to treat them with the dignity, with the respect they deserve. I'm going to value them. I'm going to show them that they count. I'm going to show the deputies that they are the core of the sheriff's office, that without them, there's no sheriff's office. When they receive that love, when they receive that respect, and they know they're no longer the agencies after them to fire them, they're going to become the best recruit ever, because every single one's going to be recruit. When people say, hey, you guys hiring? Yes, come over here. Now, they always say, yes, we are, but you don't want to come here. So go somewhere else. Go Orange County, go Seminole County. Because it's not about the money. I mean, you try to give it $10,000 more, and you're going to treat them like they're garbage. They want to go with less money, but they want to feel appreciated. They want to feel that they value, that they got, the people consider the administration love what they're doing. And that's, I guarantee you, that's the best way you can recruit. Your own deputy is going to be you recruiters. And then, yes, go to school. But if you don't fix the morale, if you don't fix and show them that they count, especially in briefing in the morning, that you show them that you love them and they care, and they don't have any option but be good. It's like a happy wife, happy life, happy deputies, happy citizen. Thank you.
Oh, so many people are nodding at that one, right? And I didn't hear you quite clearly at the very beginning. It's Wiley?
That's correct, Wiley.
Wiley, thank you. Okay, Wiley Black. Okay, Mr. Wiley Black. Same question to you. If elected, what would you do in order to ensure that your agency provides, culturally and linguistically appropriate services to this growing community right now?
Well, I kind of agree with Amaryllis about, and also Mr. Villar said the same thing. It doesn't matter for white, black, Hispanic, Asian, that we want the most qualified people. And I can guarantee you, if we're in an airplane and all of a sudden we start having problems with the airliner, and they're not going to care what we are. They just want to make sure we can fly that plane and we're qualified to fly the plane. That's what matters. But I also understand and respect that. I believe, it depends on what number you look at, we're over 60% Hispanic there. And I believe that we should mirror our community. And we don't have to recreate the wheel. You know, I would be reaching out to Alianza, different communities like that, and see how you do it. What's the best practices to go after the Hispanic people, you know, and I would continue doing things like that. When it comes to recruiting, I had recruiting for a while, and I think the first thing you got to do is you got to lead by example, and then you have to empower the people that you put in place to do the job. You give them a mission to recruiting. You sit down as a team and talk about it, and then you empower those people to do it. And you listen to them. And it's not about the money, as everybody here on the table has said. It's about how you treat them. It doesn't matter what job you're in. It doesn't matter where you work at. You want to feel like you're a part of a family. And if you don't feel like that, you just become a training field for people to come in and move along. I would definitely, like a couple of candidates said, start early inside the schools, going after recruiting. That's where it starts at. It starts in the SROs. It starts in empowering our SROs. It starts in educating the SROs. And it starts in supporting the SROs because they represent us in the schools. I, like Mr. Gibson said, have talked to a couple schools outside of our county about how they do with the dispatchers and the officers. So I know there's a program there that we can use to do that for sure.
Thank you. We're chugging right along here. We're ready for the next question.
Yes, the next question is going to be around the civilian review boards. In an effort to ensure transparency, procedure, and engage the voice of the community, many law enforcement agencies created civilian review boards that had substantial input on issues of police misconduct. On July 1st, 2024, Governor Ron DeSantis signed HB 601 into law. This bill prevents a civilian review board from initiating action against an officer and encourages the limitation of CRB's duties to the review of law enforcement agencies' policies and procedures. Although the new legislation does not appear to significantly impact the Osceola County Sheriff Office CARES Board, do you agree with the governor's new limitation on the powers of civilian review boards, and why? And we're going to start with Amaryllis Rivera, and then we'll end with Rob Gibson, so that everyone has a chance to be first and last.
Hopefully you don't have to repeat that each time. It's long. You can tell I'm the only female. I always run out of time. So I do agree with it, and mostly because I feel that they don't have the same understanding of the law. So I think that we should have these civilian review boards, and I think that they should have a say, and we should hear their input 100%. But when it comes to where the discipline is going to come from, I think that because of the lack of experience in that career field, I don't think that they should be having the final say on the discipline. But I do think that they should definitely sit there and give their suggestions on what they think they should be.
Thank you. Would you like me to repeat the question? You're good.
I think I'm good. Thank you.
Okay.
I agree as what Amaryllis is saying. I do agree that we do need a civilian board. I don't say that I agree with them having the power to discipline a deputy. I believe that power needs to go back to the sheriff's office itself, to the sheriff. And it depends on the situations, and the civilian board is good because then they can listen to how the deputy had to explain it. But we also need to educate the civilian boards so they understand what situations we're in, what type of situation it was called on, and why it got to this extreme. So we need to also be educating ourselves as well as the board, and also making sure our policies and procedures are up to date, because a lot of this has to do with policies being out of date. And this is where our problems come in. We need to look at our policies, and if our policies are out of date, we need to make sure we make them current. And that's where the civilians the boards are going off of these policies that are already in place, and some of them are out of date. So we need to look at, if we run across something, we need to, like chasing into another county. What is the policy on this? Is it out of date, or do we need to update it? And that should be done every year. But that's part of them, listening to the deputies when they get a complaint against them, and the civilian board, they can only listen to what is given to them. So basically, I'm just saying we just need to invest in the civilian boards and keep them around. So thank you.
Mr. Fernandez?
Yes. I do agree with that law. For the reason I agree with that law, because it's very dangerous when a civilian that never been in law enforcement, that never ever been had to take a split-second decision of their or life situation, have to use a deadly weapon, never experienced that. How are we gonna punish or say so about deputy when he had to encounter those type of problems? So I do agree with the board, no advisory, but not for punishment. I do believe that we need to have citizens for different parts of the county that represent, be like ambassador, so they can bring the sheriff's office what's the problem in that community. For instance, somebody from St. Cloud, somebody from Celebration, somebody from Poinciana, and they can have access to the sheriff's office and they can bring what's the actual problem, because every area got different problems. But I do, yes, like I said before, question, I don't think any civilians that never be in law enforcement can make a decision how punish or reward any law enforcement. And that's what I believe. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. White.
Ready? I would have to echo that same message. I believe citizen review boards are good, but when you have a citizen that has no law enforcement experience, and it's not even about just going through the academy and being out on the road, it's about being in those split-second decisions making. It's about how you feel when you're out by yourself on a traffic stop at 2 o'clock in the morning. It's about how you feel when you're the only one there and there's 15 people around you. And I think that's hard for a civilian to understand. And if when we do have civilian review boards, I think education of those civilian review boards is very important. It's not just reading them a block of instructions and then hoping they do the right thing. It's constantly keeping the civilian review board educated on worldwide events that are going on with law enforcement, the good stuff and the bad stuff. And then even maybe possibly putting those civilian review board people through some of the scenarios that we go through every day out there on the road. And what's really hard to create for a civilian review board is fear. You know, they will never feel the same fear that we feel out on the street when I mean, fear is healthy, believe it or not. That's hard to duplicate, to get them to see that and feel that, but we can come pretty close sometimes. So I think it's very important to get them to feel exactly what we're feeling, because every incident could be different.
Thank you. Mr. Gibson?
I definitely believe that the review boards, citizen review boards, shouldn't have the final say in any sort of discipline when deputies or police officers or any other support staff member makes a mistake. And that's really what it boils down to. If there are policies and procedures in place, and that's what the folks are trained on, that's what they should adhere to. I mean, and when they deviate from those policies and procedures, they kind of step out on a limb all by themselves. They've stepped away from the sheriff's office protection. That's not what we teach. So there has to be accountability for their actions. The review boards do have a place at the sheriff's office or any law enforcement institution around America, but they really should be in place for providing and updating some of the policies and procedures that's been said by some of the other candidates here. And I agree with Wiley as well, is that some scenario training for some of the folks on these review boards to give them a better perspective on what we face on a day in and day out experiences in law enforcement. So while I do agree with the civil or civilian review boards, I don't agree with them actually instilling punishment. I don't have a problem with them making a recommendation of punishments that might exist based on the policy and procedure that may have been violated. And then from there, the final decision could be made. But then we need to also keep the review board informed on what the final decision was and why, so they can have a better understanding of what we did.
Thank you, Mr. Gibson. So we have almost consensus. I think there were a few different ideas, but I think a good consensus here across the board. And that's wonderful when we have, a consensus across the board. So we'll go on with the next line of questions. Ready, Beth?
Yeah, for
Yeah.
this next question, we were discussing stuff in the back, and I was, it's a team effort. And one of the things that I like to do for any kind of, candidate conversations or debate is ask around, not necessarily with just those who are involved in the panel, but those people that I happen to know in that field. And so when we're talking about equipment, technological resources, I actually reached out to some folks who have worked in this department recently or in years past. And there was a common denominator about the quality of some of the equipment and technology. And that's what we're focusing on. Alianza has learned, and then also separately on some of my questioning and talking to people in the community who I said have worked recently in this department. They talked about the Spillman Public Safety software for its record management system and computer aided dispatch. It has a history of failing, we're told, at minimum on a weekly basis. Sometimes we hear from people, and that requires, patches to the system, maintenance, 911 calls come in. We're hearing of cases of some dispatchers trying to take notes by hand in a moment where every second counts for everyone involved in a call, right? And so having limited resources, some would say, is an issue. System failures is a problem. Could be interfering with how reports are filed, written. Record management is big. So everyone pretty much saying this needs to be addressed, this is a big issue. So if elected, will you commit to upgrading the system? And in what time frame do you anticipate doing so? The first person to answer this question will be Mr. Donnie Martinez.
Oh, well, thank you. That's a good question. Now, I do have a little experience on this technological, and my understanding is, yes, it has failed in the past, and we need to move to the future now. Now, this is where we need to come in. And what we got right now, they're working on right now, it's called a cloud-based system, and it's under real time. And what they do is all these records can be separated. As you do the police reports, everything is uploaded into the cloud, and the cloud starts separating. It's also a great record keeping project. It keeps the records, it sorts everything. It helps the financial part of the sheriff's office. It also goes back and it helps the deputies gather information and put this information in categories and breaks it all up. So it's at real time. So anytime they want to go back and look at it, they just open up their laptop and they pull it up and it's right there. It's for their eyes so they can see it. And it also, it's great for holding records and storing them for a long period of time. And it won't, like the servers get overloaded, and a cloud base is different. The cloud base is going to not overload the system as much. So the cloud base is going to give them more freedom to have all this, because there's so much information that's put in there and there's nowhere for this information to go. So they need some type of, like they say, a cloud-based system to go into. And they've got a great one they're working on right now, and they're starting it off in Pasadena, California. But I haven't heard of any reviews yet on it. But once I do, I'll let you know. Thank you.
Okay, so is that
one-
this is a yes or no? So yes or no to upgrading the system?
Yes. And
Okay.
within
Time frame?
2.5, 3 years.
2.5 to 3 years. Okay, thank you for that. And let's continue now with Mr. Fernandez.
Yes, that's a priority to upgrade the system. But besides upgrade the system, also you have to upgrade the treatment for the dispatchers and recognize what the job they're doing too. Sometimes people overlook the dispatchers like they're just civilian, and they're the eyes of the deputies on the street. They're the one keep the deputies safe by updating what's going on when we go into a call. And that being said, how quick, I don't know until I do an audit, because I need to find out what was left from the prior administration. Once I find out what's left, so that I can determine how quick we can upgrade the system. Say otherwise, it's like shooting blanks. So we need to go step by step. What's left, what we have, and of course, always we have to upgrade the IT system, because that's what we live in right now.
Okay, and as we go down the line, Mr. Black, yes or no, upgrading the system, and what would the time frame be that, for you if elected?
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. I spoke to, matter of fact, a couple dispatchers on my way in here, and working at the sheriff's office for 30+ years. I've had family that work inside of dispatch, so I kind of get a bird's eye view of what goes on inside of there. And it has shut down before. It shut down when I worked the road, and we'd have to go back to pagers or cell phones. And the cloud version, I've heard about that, and that may work. I still think it's early on, because if computers go down and clouds go down, and if that's not working, how are we going to get to it? Definitely know that's something we have to look at. And if I were to, people don't realize it costs millions and millions of dollars for a new system. And we've had the same one for probably 30+ years, 35 years. And I know we talked about it early on, a year or so ago, and it just kind of fell to the wayside. It wasn't important enough to certain people. So it definitely will be important to me. I know how important dispatchers are because I got family that work there and a lot of close friends that work inside of dispatch, and they are underrated, have been underrated. I echo what Mr. Fernandez says. You know, we're the largest agency in this county, and our dispatchers start out at the lowest pay. They're probably $3 lower than St. Cloud, $2 lower than Kissimmee, I think it is, per hour. And I definitely believe we have to do that, but I couldn't give you a time frame. It goes about the money. I know day one that we're going to start looking at that stuff.
35 years, you said, the system?
No, I said I've been at sheriff's office about 34 years, and we
Okay.
had Spillman. Now Spillman constantly updates. You can buy updates for it, but there's other programs out there and that are available. But to change a complete system, it's millions.
So let's keep the conversation going. Mr. Gibson?
Yes, the update is crucial, and it would be done probably, I would love to have it done within the first year that we take office. Now, I've been canvassing with and meeting some folks. I actually spoke with an individual who had a problem calling 911 that went to a voicemail system in our communications. That was a breakdown of the system. This person called 911 not once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, and ended up having to contact the Orange County Sheriff's Office and then being patched over to the Osceola County Sheriff's Office.
Wow.
This poor fella's father was having a heart attack. It took 14 minutes for EMS to get to the home, and it was in Cobblestone Apartments, which is very close to the sheriff's office and very close to a fire department. Now, we know that seconds save lives. Those 14 minutes, this gentleman passed away. He did not make it. And that is more than a glitch in the system. And that's something that there have been questions asked from the sheriff's office that have yet to be answered based on this person's communications with me. I don't have that knowledge or data myself personally, but it needs to be addressed immediately, whether we have to go before our county commissioners and ask for funding, emergency funding, to make sure the system is updated in order to make sure that we do everything to save a life, and every life is precious in all of our books.
Okay, thank you for that. And Ms. Rivera?
For one, I actually really like Spillman. Not every agency has the same system, and Spillman, it's not always the one that stops working. Sometimes it's Verizon. So it's not just the system itself, it's the internet connection that goes, which makes Spillman not want to work. So that's more of an issue than the system in itself. The issue is not having the updates at the correct time. So that's the biggest issue. It's not so much Spillman. I think if the updates were done more currently, it wouldn't be as much of an issue. Working on patrol, I know I've been on patrol sooner than most of these. Like, I just left patrol less than a year ago. So I firsthand know how often it goes. But when it does go, it sucks. And especially for the dispatchers, because they have to make sure that they're keeping track of calls. We're having to handwrite everything. So for me, it's not so much Spillman, the system itself. It's just making sure that we have the proper updates and that we have a backup plan for when it's not working.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Fascinating. I'm taking lots of notes because on election night, I'll have plenty to talk about depending on who wins. This is the community conversations that we need to have to understand what happens day in and day out, literally. Fascinating. I'm learning so much. Okay, so we've got that. And on this topic, we do have somebody online. Again, it's not just here, presencial, it's people online watching as well. And there's a question.
Yes, hi guys. Practically, the question is related to technology, but specifically to 911 dispatchers. Okay, that recently they were requalified to first responders. So very good for that. What are your plans to increase the 911 dispatchers in Osceola County, based on the fact that Osceola County is one of the fastest growing counties, not only in Florida, but in the United States?
And that will be, as I looked at, you know why I'm shooting video? Because we don't have a photog today. So the video that I'm shooting here is going to be on Spectrum News. So that's why I was doing that. Okay, so the question will be, we're going to go down the line for everybody. So we can start with you, Mr. Gibson, and just go down the line.
And it's a great question. I think, again, we go back to our schools, and we can really implement a program working with our school boards and also our superintendent to get some of our communication officers or a communication officer in 3 or 4 of our bigger schools, Toho, Liberty High School, Harmony or St. Cloud or Gateway. And we want to offer law enforcement classes for the first half of the year. And the second half of the year, we can implement a telecommunications academy for the second half of the class. And at the end of that second semester, they would actually take a state board test. And when they graduate high school, they will be state certified 911 emergency telecommunication officer. And we can bring them right into the sheriff's office, right out of high school, at a decent wage. And it's never enough. These are our true first responders, so their wages need to come up. But this is something that we can implement, working in a partnership with our Board of Education to make sure that we're tapping into the talent that's right there in front of us. This is part of the recruitment that we talked about earlier. And these are students that are looking for something to do. And all of these folks are not meant to go to college, but they want to make a difference in their community. And this is the way that they can really get a bite at the apple and get their foot in the door and make a difference in their community. So we start in our schools and we implement these programs. When they graduate, they're going to be state certified and they can move right into the sheriff's office, KPD, St. Cloud, as a telecommunication officer right off the bat.
That's one thing that I think I have heard from every single Democrat and Republican since the pandemic. The 4-year notion, graduate school, great if you want to go that route, but there's such a deep emphasis, right, into a different venue to get right out of high school, to get into a work environment, to get into a field where the need is so great. And I think this is one of them. Let's continue with you in the answer real quick.
So when it comes to the dispatchers, one of the biggest things is I think that they should be high-risk retirement. High-risk retirement is something that the deputies get. It's for the risk that they have. And the dispatchers don't get it, yet they're the ones who are answering these calls. And they go through a lot of mental health issues because of it, as well as our community service officers. They're there firsthand and they're civilians. So I think both of them, just giving them that high-risk retirement would be beneficial for them. And they definitely need a raise. We're one of the lowest paid, well, the lowest paid in Osceola County dispatchers. And another thing is, just as a civilian, I think it's important not to have sworn over civilian. And the reason I say that is because normally dispatch, let's say they answer to a captain. The captain has absolutely no clue what their job and their needs are. So when a civilian comes and they're asking for something, most of the time they don't get what they're asking for because they don't have that understanding of what the need actually is. So oftentimes to sworn, which is, you know, the deputies and stuff, their priority is the deputies, and the civilian units oftentimes take, you know, they don't really pay attention, which is why, like records, they're 2 years behind at the sheriff's office right now. And we haven't even provided stats to the FBI for 2 years because records is so shorthanded, but they've been asking for more employees for years, literally. But because we have sworn over civilian, not understanding where the need is, I feel like there's a gap in trying to get the needs that the civilians need.
Fascinating, fascinating.
Yes. I'm looking at this at a different angle. I'm looking at opening like doing a short academy for recruiting, especially when it comes to dispatchers. And first, to be able to get this to work, we're going to end up having to increase their pay because it's it's not a high risk job, but it's very pressured. And it takes a certain type of person to go in and do dispatch. Not everybody can do it, just like not everybody can be an officer. but we need to start like some type of academy where we can get them in there and we can get them at least started training on this and get them going through the process and seeing how they're doing and moving forward and giving the opportunity out there. But we also need to make sure that we look at our dispatchers as part of our team. They need to be told you're part of our team. They need to feel like their jobs are just like our deputies. They're all part of a team. We all work together, civilians, everybody at the sheriff's office. All I keep hearing is they're not paid enough. Pay is a big issue now because you can't even afford rent. If you look at the housing rent market, it's gone through the roof. So how do you expect to hire somebody when they can't afford to pay the rent? So we need to rethink our way of how we are operating the sheriff's office. We need to look at what are we going to do to better this? How are we going to better this? And the best thing to do is get out there and make sure that we take care of them. We go out, we give them the money because they're going to have to pay their rent. They're going to have a place to live, and also make sure that they feel they're part of our team. Thank you.
Yep, we're just going down the line.
Yes, I agree with go back to the same principle with the deputies. You gotta treat them with the respect, the dignity they deserve, and show them the value they count. When I retired from the sheriff's office in 2020, there was a lot, I cannot give you a specific number, but a lot of dispatchers, good dispatchers, they transfer to be a secretary, they transfer to be a community service officer, they transfer to different areas because they don't get paid enough and the stress was too much. So that's a quick fix. So as a sheriff, when I get there, I know the budget's there to raise the money to the dispatchers because instead of use the money for a lot of social media or buy new vehicles or buy vehicles different colors, so we have to be a good steward of the money of the county and invest the money on the people that actually deserve, which is our employees. So I cannot believe that there's no money like they say. We have to check the budget to increase the pay for the civilians, for the dispatcher. There's plenty of money, but we need to be wise about it, how to use it. Thank you.
First of all, it goes into recruiting. And when you want to recruit someone, the best way to do that is get them to talk to someone that's already doing the job. So if you get them to talk to people that are doing the job, and I would say a large portion of them aren't happy there now, you got an issue there. So the first thing you got to do is you got to fix what you got there first, so it becomes inviting for other people to be there. And one thing is by raising pay. And everybody talks about wanting to be labeled as first responders. That would be great, but it's just not that simple. You're talking millions and millions of dollars again that Florida State retirement system would have to come up with. You got to really get out and lobby for that. But do I think they deserve it? Absolutely. I've been inside of it because they're the first person you talk to. They're the ones that's listening when somebody's thinking about committing suicide, and they're inside of the house and we're outside of the house. And then they hear the shot go off, or they hear a lady crying or someone crying because their child just drowned, or they're trying to teach them or trying to talk to them on the phone how to do CPR. Does that affect them? Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree with going back to the schools again to try to get us some 911 operators. But again, we got to take care of who we got first, or no one's going to come work there. We'll just be a revolving door. And I think that's very easy to do. Again, with pay and just making them feel like they're acceptable. One last thing, I've always wanted to have daycare for dispatch. I've never done enough research for that, but most dispatchers, they have young kids, and when we're working midnights and days, it's hard on them, the stress of that, and a lot of dispatchers are equipped for that. I don't know if that's possible, but I do know we want to do that. Look into it.
Thank you for that information, this thoughtful, way of thinking about finding alternatives, right? It's about finding alternatives.
A lot of interesting things in the discussion tonight. We have a lot of engagement online. Maybe some of it's coming from inside the room as well. So Angel, when we ask the questions, make sure we name the person that's making the questions so that we acknowledge the person that's asking the questions. We'll be going back and forth in the questions to online. And again, anyone here in the audience can write their questions in as well on our social media. So the next question, we're turning now to a situation that a lot of people are talking about the entire country, and that's immigration. So Yvette, if you could.
Okay, immigration laws in the state becoming tougher and tougher. And one of the things that really has ramped up in our coverage whenever I get to interview people at Spectrum News, and I'm just going to go there because I mean, this is politics, so and this is what we do. So Republicans have been saying, you know, about immigration, the border, but now people within President Biden's own party, the Democratic Party, are saying we need help, right? You've got a Democratic governor in New York, Democratic mayor in New York City, begging for help because the immigration issue, Democrats are calling it a crisis. Republicans have been doing that, but now they're seeing eye to eye on very rarely anything these days, but that's one thing that they're talking about. So this is why immigration is a big hot topic here in Central Florida as well. So when it comes to undocumented people residing in the U.S., what is your position on the role of the sheriff's office when it comes to immigration enforcement? Sometimes we hear the phrase being thrown around, sanctuary areas, pockets across the country. So what is your position on the role of when it comes to the Osceola County Sheriff's Office? And I lost my little piece of paper on the last questions. So that's 3, 4.
I think Mr. Fernandez.
Yes.
Is your
Yes.
turn.
Okay.
We'll start with Mr. Fernandez and then work our way around.
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, as a sheriff, I was sworn in to uphold the law, and I will do the law because I'm not a lawmaker, and I make sure my deputies respond and serve everybody equally. If somebody call 911, somebody call the sheriff's office. Nobody need to ask them, are you a citizen? Are you an immigrant? Are you an illegal immigrant? So that's a person, that's a human being that need help. I'm gonna make sure that our deputies provide the help that whatever person, whatever human being in this earth deserve. If there's a law, federal law, that says that we have to do otherwise or turn them in, like I said, as a sheriff, we have to enforce the law, like it or not. But I believe that we are all humans under God, and we cannot judge because we all immigrants. The only native here are the Indians, and I don't see no Indians here. So everybody deserves a chance. And like I said, whatever the law says, that's what we're gonna do, whatever the law says, because we are law enforcement. We're not lawmakers. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Black.
I would have to echo exactly what Tony says when it comes to law enforcement. And if anyone tells you any different, you might want to think about what they're really doing. There's several laws out there that I don't agree with, but we have to enforce those. We're bound to enforce those laws. I'm not defined by a Democrat. That doesn't define me. I'm defined by my faith in God. You know, I follow the Constitution, and I'm defined by my actions. So I hate it when it's a Democrat-Republican thing. We are all equal. The United States is a melting pot for everyone to come to. I wish everyone that wanted to have a new life could come, but I think there's a process that we have to go through, just like everything else. There has to be a process, or it just comes a mayhem. And I hate it when it becomes a Democrat or a Republican issue. It's not. It's a United States, American, us people issue. And that's where I wish we could all come together and come up to some type of resolution instead of just siding with one party or the next just because they're Republican or Democrat. I do believe anybody should be able to come into the United States the proper way. And I think we should do everything we possibly can to help those people come in this way and not tie it down by red tape.
Okay, Mr. Gibson.
Immigrants and immigrant families are here alive and well in Osceola County. If you get down to the south sector of the county where our farms are, our ranches are, you will see immigrants out there picking berries. They're working the fields, getting the potatoes and the red peppers and whatever else that you find in your supermarkets. These are the folks that are making that happen. You know, I got out of a vehicle and spoke Spanish, the limited Spanish that I can speak. I said hello to the folks, and they all mustered together and quietly got into the bus. And the owner of the ranch came and asked me what I said to them. And I said, good morning. They said, you're in uniform, you're white, don't ever speak to them in Spanish. So you have to understand that they're here. And we have to be careful not to create a situation of indentured slavery. If these folks, these ranch owners or workers felt for 1 second that they could hold cards over these immigrants' heads, that they have to do this, this, or this, or they're going to call the sheriff's office and have them deported, what would we be doing at that point? This is a humanitarian effort that we would take. As echoing what these folks have said, we're going to uphold the laws. If one of these immigrants calls because they've been sexually battered or harassed or harmed in any way, we want to protect and serve them because they are human and they have rights just because they are human. ICE agents have their job and we have ours.
Thank you.
I didn't think all of us would agree as much as we have today. So ditto, I think that, we don't write the law. We're just here to enforce it. So, but with that said, I do see a lot of immigrants get taken advantage of just because they're afraid to call law enforcement. So as much as I can say to people when I speak to immigrants and stuff, I tell them, if you're a victim of a crime, please call. We're not concerned on your citizenship status. Now, if you're the suspect in a crime and you're the one committing the act, then that's different. That's when we try to get ICE involved, but it's very few times that actually happens. If you're in trouble, if you're the victim of a crime, please reach out to us. I do think that it's not a decision that's really up to us on whether or not we would want to enforce it or not. But there's certain laws that we don't always agree with, but we still have to do our jobs. So
Fascinating. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm thinking we should do a lightning
let's do it.
round, just yes or no. There's a lot of talk also in Florida.
Do you want my
about-
answer?
About, I'm sorry. I'm
No,
so
you're
sorry.
good.
I'm so sorry.
I'll make it
do
quick
have
for
a
you.
turn. Take your finish the round.
Okay, my answer basically is just like everybody else around the table. We're here to uphold the law. That's it. And if you call 911 and you need us, we're there for you. It doesn't matter. We're not here to check papers. We're here to help you in any situation that you're in. So that's our job. But as far as paperwork and immigrants, that goes all back to ICE. That has nothing to do with us. So basically, we're just here to uphold the law and take care of anybody that comes to our country. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Good catch.
Apologies for that. The lightning round has to do with some loosening of laws around gun ownership. And we've all lived in Florida and seen Marjorie Stoneman school and the tragedy there, Pulse here in Orlando. And every day, the fact that people are walking around with military-grade weapons on their possession would seem to me make it harder for law enforcement with all those weapons out there. And so in that context, are you in favor of military-grade weapons being in the streets under permit, under freedom of carry, or are you against it? Yes or no?
I'm against it.
oh, that's a hard question, and I'm going to try to answer it as honestly as possible.
And as quickly,
Oh yeah, yes or no?
lightning.
Lightning.
All right. I'll go with yes.
I'll go with yes.
You repeat the questions.
Are you in favor of military-grade weapons being available to people, anyone? Right now, I think it's 18, right?
20.
You're talking about, when you say military, you mean like grenade or?
Automatic machine guns, like the ones they use in Pulse, like the ones they use in,
Yes, I'm in favor of that, yes. But not grenade or bazookas or no like that, but yeah. Okay.
I don't know if I can honestly answer that question, yes or no, sir.
Mhm.
Because what the Constitution says that we can have. I think where our problem is that we need to educate the people about the guns, and we need to have stricter gun laws.
Thank you. All right. So we're now going to talk about agency transparency in police work. building trust between the agency and the community, as well as community and the media, right? Building that trust. Open and ethical communications along complying with public record laws and requests clearly serve to support and preserve that fragile trust. If elected, in case of an officer involved in shootings, how would you handle these unfortunate situations in the best interest of the community as well as the best interest of your personnel? How would you balance that? And we'll start with Mr. Black.
Imagine me being the first one on that question. I can tell you that we would handle it with transparency, quick transparency, but not so quick that we would put something out there that was not factual. Because what the general public doesn't understand is sometimes it takes a long time to get all your facts in before you start putting them out. We would be very transparent with the good and the bad, and then we'd stand by the decisions that we made, good and the bad. And if they were bad, we would do everything we could to try to correct those decisions, for sure.
Thank you. Mr. Gibson?
When it comes to officer-involved shootings, we have an agreement with the Florida Department of Law Enforcement that they can come in and do a fair and impartial third-party investigation. And that's really what happens in our agency and most agencies in the state. You don't have to have the Florida Department of Law Enforcement come in and do any investigation, but it is an agreement that we have with them. And I think it's a great policy to have. But it is true that we have to get the information out as much as we possibly can. And I've seen time and time again with this administration where they can't talk about anything and they refer everything to FDLE. But the idea is that when I was sheriff, I simply talked with the leader of FDLE. We talked about different things that we could and couldn't release as a team. And we put together a public information release on the facts that we could release at that time. So we worked together as a team to make sure the information that we're going to release isn't going to adversely affect the investigation that's being conducted by their units. It's essentially their case now, but they want to hear from the sheriff's office on the involvement. So we can absolutely do that. And the more that we stonewall, the more that we don't answer questions, the more that we put the media off, the more it raises red flags in the community of distrust and corruption. And the only way that that's going to end is by having that open door policy. Discuss the things that you can discuss, and when the time comes, we can discuss the things that can be released.
Thank you. Ms. Rivera?
So I agree with that as well. I think there's certain things that can be discussed and then there's certain things that can't. And sometimes the media will do public records release. And because it's an active investigation, they can't release that information. And then they're thinking, oh, well, since they're not releasing it, that means they're trying to hide something. No, it's because they can't allow certain information to come out until the investigation is finalized. I do think that the current administration only lets out certain things that they want. The Target shooting has not been spoken about much in the media, and that's something that when I talk to people, they're constantly asking me, hey, what do you think about that? And that's because the agency has not really stood up much, talked about the incident and what actually happened. So I think that part of being transparent is always being transparent, not only when it's convenient to us. And that's why for me, my motto is integrity first and service before self, because I think that if you have the integrity, you're always going to do the right thing, regardless if it's going to make the agency look good or bad.
Thank you.
And it's always good to be transparent on everything. It's should be policy, period. I mean, we should be able to be transparent and tell you, but only after we get all the actual information. And some information is private because it might be under investigation. We might not be able to discuss some of it, but whatever we can give the media, we need to give the media, because people are concerned and their welfare. They were concerned about their self, their safety. We need to make sure that we're transparent with everyone. And, you know, working along with the media side by side is probably one of the best things we can do, because, you know, the media is there to help us get this information out. When we need them to go help us find a missing child, they're there. We need to make sure that we're there for them. And we give them this information only after all the actual evidence has been gathered and we have the correct information. So thank you.
Thank Thank you, Mr. Martinez. Mr. Fernandez.
The law establishes how and when you can release the information. Under open investigation, by no time you can release anything just because the media wants it. Once the investigation is concluded, there's no reason to hold anything back. So, in an active investigation, reason we preserve that because we don't want to compromise investigation. We want the let's talk about murder. So the suspect pay for that. We want to bring justice to the family. So we cannot be quick on that. So how we can be transparent? How can we get the trust of the media? I will hire a media person, a PIO. We hire a reporter so they can get that bond with the media, so they can trust and know that no yet we cannot release that yet, but as soon as we can, we will release it. It's about being transparent. Everybody talk about transparency, but the transparency like this clock right here, black. So I know like your last name, just like this, okay? So we need to be real transparent by acts, not by words, not by what's saying we're gonna be. We need to show and prove how we're gonna do business. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fernandez. Mr. Black?
Oh, he's
Oh,
the
yeah,
first
go
one.
right there. Sorry. Okay.
Yep.
Getting late.
You wanna go second round?
It's
Let me do
okay,
a
you
quick
only
lightning
missed-
round before we continue to the next question. When something happens, some sort of situation is evolving, and if you were the sheriff, would you prefer, no matter what, press conference first, then information put out social media? So A, press conference first, B, social media, followed by social media, or C, let's go ahead and make sure that you have also bilingual information that's being put out. I know I'm asking a lot of you on this lightning round because that takes resources, that takes money to make sure that something is put out in a proper manner, translated, appropriately. Are you for, or what's your feelings on that? Press conference first, then social media, or let's go ahead and do it together and also make sure that it's bilingual?
I would say do it together. And the social media is essential because people want the information right now.
Mm-hmm.
When it's happening now, they want it now. They don't want to wait until later. So what information we can get out to social media, especially when it's happening in a certain area where it could be affecting them, we want to get that information out to them right away.
Okay, thank you. And for you?
I think that there should be a process so it doesn't get messy. I think for me, I want to hire a PIO because they're the ones that are experienced in doing it. The officers can't talk to the media. They have to wait for a certain person to come in. And we haven't had a PIO since Twist. So I feel since then, we don't have the same relationship with the media, but I do think that we should have a press conference and then do the media calmly when we have the time. I'm not saying a week later, it can be done in a timely manner on the same day. So we don't have issues kind of like what happened with Madeline Soto's photo. So I think it's something we need to take time with.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Martinez?
I agree with, making sure we gather the information first, and then we call the press conference, and then we'll do the social media and release it all at one time. So that way we have all the information and the facts correct before it all goes out. So.
Okay. Mr. Fernandez?
I would do a press conference first. That way, when we put the social media, if we left something out, so then you guys know that I try to be a social media sensation. So by a press conference first, so it's assured that what we put on the social media, so it's what we send the press conference. Got to go together. But I would do press conference first.
Okay, Mr. Black?
I think every situation is different. It depends on the crime and what are you trying to get out. But the first thing you need to do is make sure the factual information is there and been checked 3 times, sometimes 4 times, and then who that information affects and where it goes out to. But each situation should be separately. Sometimes you got to get on social media real quick. You don't have time to do a press conference.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
But-
thank you for that.
Thank
Thank you. That's so timely, right? That's why I want to put that out there because, well, it's timely. Mm-hmm.
So we're going now to take another call from the audience online.
Well, it's going to be two. I'm going to do one that I have on my mind as a certified PIO for the state of Florida and a former news director. Media is hunted by the concept of fake news. Everybody wants to believe what they want to believe, and they want to call their source whatever they want to call a source. What would you do to work with media in order to avoid and to assure our community that the information that they are getting from the office is the accurate one according to the Florida statutes?
We can start at actually the middle of the table so we can kind of make our way around. Yeah, we can start with Mr. Martinez, and I'll keep track. I've got my little handy dandy pencil. Okay.
Now you got me confused. Say that question again. It's something about media.
Sure. Practically, it is we are haunted, or media is haunted by the concept of fake news. What would you do as a sheriff to ensure that people feels that they are getting the correct information according to the Florida statutes and the limitations the media has sometimes to inform based on the Florida statutes? What would you do to, one, educate media about what's going on internally with the Florida statutes? And number two, how would you ensure the community feels secure that the information they're getting is the correct one?
Well, first, I would build a stronger relationship with the media. Right now, it's like you just said, the media doesn't have a strong, it's fake news, whatever. We need to get the correct information out there. And the first thing you need to do that is you got to be connected with the media. You got to be able to trust in them. And if we trust in them and we give them the information and we tell them, look, you know, when we call the press conference, this is what's going on by statutes. We have to make sure that we're doing this, this, and this. And then we'll go ahead and release the information, but not until then. So that way we have their understanding why it's taking us a little bit longer, and we're communicating. And that's the biggest problem right now is the communication isn't open. And yes, if the media does something wrong, yes, then we'll have to address that situation. But building that relationship and giving that open, you know, forum where we can communicate together and be able to get out there and get this to the citizens, because the citizens are the ones that deserve the answers. And we need to get it out there as soon as we can, but we need to do it right and professional. So I say, yes, we need to work with the media stronger. So.
Mr. Fernandez?
It goes back to the same principle. Media are citizens, are people. Law enforcement are citizens, are people. So we need to get the trust back from the people. Media, firefighters, doctors, lawyers. So with the media in this particular issue, we cannot pick and choose what we're gonna tell the media. We gotta be transparent since the beginning, good or bad for the agency, but we have to give the media the actual news, not pick and choose what we wanna say. That way the media gonna trust us. And then if the media violate that trust, so we're gonna tell nothing. We tell a valuable resource, but it has to be about gain trust back and forth. It has to be a transparent relationship. The problem we have now, because we tell the media why we want to tell the media or what is convenient for us. But when something happens, we try to cover it. We try to put a big mantle, a big black mantle. I know you again, but we try to cover that. And we cannot be doing that. We need to tell exactly how the events happen. Good or bad? Good or bad. We can now pick and choose. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Black.
That's okay. That's a very good question. Probably one of the best ones tonight we had about the media. First thing you need to do is I firmly believe you got to have a qualified, experienced PIO, and you have to have a relationship with that PIO. And then that PIO has to have a great relationship with all the news channels. And you have to develop that trust with them and be in constant contact with them. And I think the most important thing is, because I don't see too many media coming to the sheriff's office because we saved a child or we did this great deed. Most of the time when the media comes there, it's because of something tragic. Everybody wants to know the tragic incident that happened. So the very core of that, and the person we need to protect the most, is the victim's family. So we want to make sure that the victim knows, families knows everything prior to media or anybody else. Don't be in a hurry to get the information out there to them. It doesn't set well when a a victim's father or mother is out of state, has to see something on the news media that they're not even aware of first. You know, there's a term I always like to use. It's called feed the beast, the media being the beast. And you have to give them the information. It's got to be transparent, but it's got to be done at the right time and correctly. But that can only be done by developing and fostering and mentoring and growing the relationships between the PIO, the sheriff, and all the news media outlets.
Thank you, Mr. Gibson.
Getting information out to whether it's the media or whether it's to a citizen asking for something from the sheriff's office is crucial. And like what's been discussed on the panel already, having that contact person is also crucial. You know, when I'm out at an event and I have the media reporters, some of them coming up to me and complaining about the sheriff's office currently, that they're putting in requests they're not getting responses to. They don't know who to contact for this, who to contact for that. That's a problem. The sheriff's office is run almost completely on ad valorem taxes, which is what we all pay. And so you have the right as a citizen, if you want to know something about your agency, unless it's an active investigation, you should be able to get that information. I know firsthand that I put in a couple of requests for information and cannot get it. This is absurd. And it should never happen, not just to me, but to anyone. So having that key person to contact in the agency is crucial. And having that free flow of information, as been said on the panel, good and bad, is also crucial. When you hide this information seemingly, you throw up red flags and it screams corruption. And you can't do that. You have to have a great relationship with our media. You know, I've been on many programs with the media with a woman who was stranded from the hurricanes, and she came over and had a language barrier. We helped her through school. She went through the academy. She's now a deputy. A success story. Not just bad things with the media, but also good things.
Thank you so much. And Ms. Rivera.
For me, one of the biggest priorities is hiring a PIO, an experienced PIO, not leaving it up to law enforcement to deal with the media, because we don't have the experience in that. So it would be like you telling us how our job is done and then vice versa. I think it's important to have somebody in place, and there is a process. I don't think, because sometimes the media wants all the information right there and then because they want to report about it. But then, like Wiley stated earlier, sometimes the family doesn't know. There's been so many times that I've worked certain calls and then I hear the news and I'm like, that's not even close to what happened. But because they're in such a rush to get the story out, a lot of things get blurred. That's why I think it's important to have a PIO that can explain, like, hey, this is all we can give you for right now. But as soon as we get the rest of the information and the cases, you know, the investigation is done, we can do a press conference and, you know, have you guys come and we can answer all of those questions.
Well, thank you so much.
Before you continue,
Thank you.
just for the people watching and for the people in the community, not everybody knows the acronyms. So PIO, I can imagine what it means, but just can we?
Yeah, of course. And that is exactly, see, he's my boss. We're so connected because we had a comment here that they didn't know what PIO means. And that is Public Information Officer, or a spokesperson for the department, but it's Public Information Officer.
And they're trained.
Of course. I mean, they are experienced media people that actually handles the media for the department, Public Information Officer. And I have one question, and then I'll turn it over to the guys here. Steven Monteiro asked, what is the one quality you bring to the table to prepare the agency for the next 10 years?
That would be Mr. Fernandez, so we can continue the cycle.
Right. Honor. The quality that I bring is unity, is justice. I will implement the Lady Justice, which is blindfold, justice for all, equally, together. Unification. I will unify the sheriff's office with the citizens and with all agencies. I will bring problem solving, not only deputies to call, respond to call, and, oh, I need a housing. Oh, I'm sorry, wrong number. No, I'm gonna guide them to the proper authority so we can resolve the citizen's problem. Transparency, this covers the whole thing. And the other one's gonna be improved relationship with the state attorney's office. I will not rush myself to submit a case when it's high profile because I want to make sure that we work together so we can prosecute the criminals. And the other one's going to be proper authority. Proper authority means if I have a sergeant, I have to call the lieutenant all the time, ask for what he needs to do. So I don't need the sergeant. The lieutenant can do it. I got a lieutenant, ask the captain all the time, what should I do? So I don't need the lieutenant. The captain can do it, and on and on. So I would empower the people so they can make decision, and they won't be afraid to make the decision because they don't want to be accounted for. So that's what I'll bring my 6 point to the sheriff's office. Thank you.
Mr. Black?
Question, I'm sorry. That was a long answer, I'm sorry. It was a good one.
What are you
Long.
going to do to set up the agency for the next 10 years?
What is the one
quality?
quality you bring to the agency for the next 10 years? What is that quality that you bring to the table for the sheriff's office for the next 10 years?
Pretty simple for me. It's, I'll say it's slow. So it's true, ethical, experience, leadership to the sheriff's office. I don't think that, I've told a lot of people that you can, I'm loyal to a lot of people, a lot of things, but I'll never trade my honor for any loyalty to anyone. And I think my 32 plus years history at the sheriff's office shows that. But if you watch social media, a few keyboard heroes throw other things in there. I will put my integrity and my honor up against anyone, because if you don't have that from the top down, really nothing else matters. You can implement all kind of policies, you can do whatever you want, but if it's not started at the top and it's not echoed and fostered all the way down through, it doesn't matter what you implement there. Most of all is again the true experienced ethical leadership that I have there at the sheriff's office. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Gibson, same question to you. What kind of quality or qualities would you bring your leadership position for the next 10 years?
It's honor, integrity, and the ability to fight for what's right. I mean, that's what everyone expects from the sheriff, and that's what we have to do in the leadership, especially in a situation like this. There are 5 constitutional officers in every county, and the one that you hear of the very most, almost exclusively, is the sheriff, because of the job that he or she has to do every single day. You have to pick up the sword and be that tip of the sword for the voiceless sometimes. When people want to know that you're going to fight for them when the time comes. And that's what my track record shows. And I will do that. I did that in the Nicole Montalvo case when we had a prosecutor refusing to prosecute that case for whatever the reason. I fought that case all the way up to the governor's office. And finally, the governor made the decision to reassign that case to a different prosecutor. That is intestinal fortitude. I'm not a statesman, but I knew that the right thing, we had to keep fighting this fight, because we had to look at this family in the eyes and say that we did everything possible for justice for this young woman who lost her life so barbarically. And we did that. And it wasn't just me, it was a team that took care of this. But the leader went to Tallahassee. The leader had these conversations. The leader was initially told no from the governor's office and didn't accept that, and got him to change his mind, which is not an easy thing to do.
Thank you. Mr. Rivera.
So I'm going to answer this question a little differently, because maybe I understood the question differently, because I think that integrity and honor should go without saying when it comes to law enforcement. I feel if you work in law enforcement and you don't have integrity or honor, you don't have a leg to stand on. As far as quality that I would bring, one specific quality that I think would set up the agency for the next 10 years is training. So I think that our officers are not training as much as they should, not our leadership, not the deputies on patrol. And I think that in order to set us up to have a well-functioning agency, we need to focus more on training, because I can have all the integrity in the world, but if I'm not, pouring into these deputies to make sure that the agency is functioning the way that it should, my integrity is going to go nowhere. So I think as far as the one thing that I could bring is making sure that we have the best trained officers out there to serve our community.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I would like to start off by saying I want to re-engage with our community. I want to let them know that we're there for them. I want to make sure that they understand that they can call the sheriff if they have a complaint. My doors are always open to the community as well as the deputies. It should always be an open door. We got to rebuild that bond within the sheriff's office. We got to let them know that we're there for them as well. And without having those open door policies in place, this is what's creating a lot of this, because we are disengaging with each other. We need to be transparent and honest with the citizens. Whatever they request, if we did something wrong, we need to say we did something wrong. We don't need to hide behind laws or procedures or anything like that. We need to get out and say we did something wrong. And of course, everybody knows I'm on ongoing training. I want to put a program in place to train every month, not just when we think we need it. We're going to train from the simplest things all the way to the most extreme and everything in between, because there's nothing that we cannot be training on. Because when you call us, we're going to be the best that you've ever seen. Because when we show up, we're going to have answers to all your questions. We're going to make sure that you receive a value and that you feel that the sheriff's office is working for you again, rebuilding that trust, that bond, because we've lost that throughout the years and it's just not there anymore. We need to rebuild it, and we need to reconnect with the deputies, the employees, and everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. So we're getting towards the end of the evening, but there is one last question that I want to address, and I want to keep it to 1 minute. Carla, 1 minute on this round, please, just because of the constraints of time. First of all, let me say there's been so many interesting answers here by all of you candidates that are running for sheriff, and from on behalf of Alianza and our community, we appreciate you coming and showing up here tonight to offer your ideas to the audience and also to those who are watching. And this is going to live online throughout until election day, so people will be able to reference this recording moving forward. Mr. Black said something that I felt a while ago about that I understood a while ago after talking, around middle of my life, talking to other policemen about the fear that sometimes police themselves face when they're out there, maybe surrounded in a crowd, or when they know they're going into a call that it's a dangerous call and their life is on the line, that fear. On the civilian side, I'm a Latino man, and then I was a young man living in Chicago, and I wasn't involved in anything that was, I didn't wear suits then, and I wore a goatee, and I was kind of, you know what I mean. But we lived in fear. We weren't involved in any criminal activity or anything, but we lived in fear of the police. So that balance, right, between the fear that the civilians out in the streets, in poor neighborhoods especially, feel, and the fear that the police is sort of like. So the question is, we often, every so often, hear of incidents, particularly for me in schools, of officers maybe using excessive, what seems like to us when we see those stories, excessive force towards youth, and sometimes towards innocent people out on the street, regardless of whether they're young or old. But specifically in schools, it's like really shocking to me. What is your position regarding school safety and the presence of sworn law enforcement in officers in our schools versus maybe guardians or some other alternative? 1 minute each. And we'll start this time with Mr. Black.
Absolutely. I think they should all be SOs inside of there. We helped train the guardians for the first time that was brought to, and the current sheriff wanted to go to the guardian program. I don't know why, but we did. And we trained, I don't remember, say 30 of them. And when that training was done, those, I don't know how many went to our schools, but probably about a third of those went to our schools. And then we received guardians, from what I understand, from they had been trained by the sheriff's office. So doing the guardian program, at least I never knew who we were getting. We may train someone and they go to another school. The guardians don't take reports. They can't take a lot of the action that needs to be taken. I definitely believe that we need to have SROs in the school, but we have to train them better. We have to support them better. We have to get them better equipment. And then they need to mimic their school. They need to understand social media. They need to understand the schools. The kids need to be able to come to them and talk to them and be their friend and not just be a guy in a uniform.
Thank you. Mr. Gibson.
I agree. And I took a stance on this after the incident, the massacre at Parkland took place. And I stood before the Board of County Commissioners and I told them unprecedentedly that I would not allow any civilians to hold firearms in the school. We would have deputies and police officers, SROs or SRDs in every one of our schools. And we got that done. So, and the most important thing is to protect and preserve these little children. They're our most precious resources. They're children today, but they're leaders tomorrow. And our educators need to have that peace of mind too, that they're protected. If you use the SRO program and properly vet these deputies that'll fit into a school with the elementary students, another different type of personality for the middle school, different type of personality for the high school, and you have the right person in these schools to make a positive impact on these children, I'm telling you, they'll have a friend for life. They don't forget their SROs and they trust them. And when something's going to happen in the school, the children hear it first. They're going to tell their SROs, which will in turn be the eyes and ears for these folks.
Ms. Rivera.
I think it would be great to have both. So I think that we should definitely have SROs, but I think that we can work with the guardians. Why not have more bodies at the school if we can? Because there's a lot of veterans out there that are more than willing to come out and help keep our schools safe. But I would never get rid of the SROs. I just think that in conjunction, maybe we can work better together. I also think it's important to have the right deputies in these schools. Sometimes we have deputies that it's like, they're a trouble deputy and we don't know where to put them, and they either go to the courthouse or they go to SRO, and you're like, yeah, that person should not even be working with kids. It should be a position not that you're placed in, a position that is sought after by them. And I think that we need to require, not just for the SROs, but for every position, if you become CID or if you go to the schools, have constant training on that specific job.
I believe that when it comes to school and children, we need to make sure that we build a mentor relationship with them, that they know that we're there for them, that they can talk to us about anything. We're not here to arrest you. We need to open up that communication gap that they've lost throughout the years. They've lost serious communication with these kids. We need to let them know, hey, if you have a problem, you're being bullied, it's okay. Talk about it. It's just like everything else. And also bring in the retired deputies. Let the deputies come in and read a book. Also have my command staff set up a program where deputies and command staff go to each school at different periods, go in and talk to the kids and let them know, hey, you guys need anything? We want to go play some basketball, whatever. Build that relationship and let them know that we're there for them and they're the only ones that matter at that time, because they are. They're our future. We need to invest in our future, just like we need to invest in our deputies, and we need to invest in the sheriff's office. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Fernandez.
It's good to have SROs back to school because that's the first encounter the kids gonna have with the police officer. And what a better way to earn the trust back from the people as a law enforcement with the kids when they keep growing, so they know the law enforcement is now against them. Law enforcement is to protect them, not to abuse them. Like sometimes on the pen of the household. So the parents teach them, that we're the enemy. So who better the kids teach the father, the law enforcement, other friends as a real there to help. So yes, I believe that we should have the SROs because the kids is the most precious treasure that we have, and it's the future of this country and the whole world. Thank you.
Thank you. So this concludes the questions. I know that we wanted to take questions from the public. We did get some through online, but we're gonna have to wrap up. And if there's if as long as you guys want to stay, maybe half an hour later, talking to some of the people one-on-one, that would be fine, as you see fit. Again, I want to appreciate everyone's participation tonight. It's sad that we didn't have Mr. Lopez here with us tonight. I think it was important to hear from him. We take these debates very seriously, and forums. Let's call them forums. We take them very seriously, and we appreciate the fact that each and every one of you were here. It's an important conversation. just as important as any other office. And by the number of people that came out tonight to watch, it certainly shows that it's important in our community as well. So thank you, each and every one of you. We're going to go to closing statements. We're going to start with Mr. Gibson. We started with Mr. Black in the beginning. Now we're going to start from this end down. And we're going to cut it to 1.5 minutes just because of timing.
Okay.
And then also, if you can do it in 1 minute, you'll get brownie points.
Okay, Mr. Gibson.
Well, first of all, thank you, Alianza, for having us here. And it's been an honor to be in front of the folks out in the audience and also in social media. In 25 days, early voting starts in Osceola County and really across our state. And that's the most crucial time that starts this process of you being heard. Your voice is critical in our race as in every race. You've heard from 5 different candidates. One doesn't show, and you should take that into account, that this person did not show up here tonight. That's sad, because as the moderator said, this is a person that we really wanted to hear from as well. So when you look at the totality of circumstances and the folks that are running here tonight, consider everything that's been said and do your homework. Really look at the research, get on the internet and see who these folks are, see who I am, see who these folks are, and make an informed decision. It could be one of the most important things you do coming up here in just 25 days is the start of early voting. It'll end on August 20th at 7 o'clock at night. And by 7:15 or 7:20, we will all know pretty much who the Democratic nominee is going to be. We know that Donnie got a free ride here. He doesn't have an opponent in the Republican Party. So, but do your homework. And as you know, I'm Russ Gibson, your former sheriff, and my heart is full and I'm got a full gas tank and I'm asking for your vote on or before February or August 20th.
Thank you. Okay. Let's
No brownie
continue.
points for him, but I'm gonna try. So basically vote for me because I'm pretty awesome. And brownie points, ja? No. So definitely get out there, make an informed vote. Being that I'm the first Latina to run, I always tell people, don't vote for me just because of that. I think that oftentimes, especially as Latinos, we want to support other Latinos, but we're not concerned about their actual qualifications. And that's why things have gotten to the point that they are now. I think it's important to get to know every single candidate, make an educated decision. We have so many meet and greets that I know all of us do. We're constantly door knocking. There's endless possibilities of you to get to know us. I know all of us always say, hey, contact us if you want to meet up for coffee. I'm more than happy to sit with you. I will definitely stay a little bit after if anybody has questions, and vote for me August 20th.
Now I'm confused. No. But I'm running in November's ballot already. So just remember November when it comes to Donnie. And I want to start with changing at the sheriff's office. I want to get out there and I want to get the sheriff's office in a momentum where we are part as a family. We are working towards a greater goal here. Because if you look in the past 30 years, what have we gotten? Where have we gotten? We need to grow even faster because the sheriff's office has a lot of issues right now that we need to address. We need to first address money. Everybody says it isn't about money, but if you can't pay your bills, where are you going to get the money? So we need to address the money. We also need to address in training our officers, because you're investing in your investment, because they are our investment. They're Osceola County's future. In the next 10 years, we need to make sure that we fully invest in those officers. We give them the resources they need. We also need to make sure that we come to the 21st century. We are updated on technology because technology is growing a lot faster. AI is coming. Whether we like it or not, there's already a lot of things coming out about AI right now. And we have so much that's going to overload the sheriff's office. That's why it's so important to get training going and get it in the right direction. But also you need to look at our deputies. We need to make sure that our deputies are taken care of, our dispatchers are taken care of, and our employees are taken care of. Because right now, it doesn't seem like we've grown anywhere in the last 30 years. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and Mr. Martinez?
Fernandez.
Fernandez, perdóname.
Fernando.
Dios mío, Dios, Fernández.
Está bien.
Estamos llegando al final.
De
No,
Aguadilla, Puerto
de
Rico.
Aguadilla,
Por favor, I
Puerto
want to
Rico.
remind everybody, this woman has been working since 3 a.m. this morning.
I know.
All right, por favor,
That's good.
por favor, no me la maltrate.
Yo hablo español, no, so don't get confused. Okay, thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. And I always like to start saying, but today I'm gonna end up saying what I'm not. And probably some of you heard before, but if not, you're gonna hear now. I'm not a revenge candidate. I'm not a do-over candidate, and I want to be the next social media sensation. Okay, so what I am is I have a passion heart to serve. I've been running since 2016. This is my third time. The reason I'm running because I haven't seen the justice, the fruit that I want to see in the sheriff's office. That's why I keep running, because I want to bring the justice, the dignity the deputies deserve. I want to bring the family to the sheriff's office. I haven't seen that. That's why I'm going for the third time, because I won't rest until I see it. Ain't gonna lie. This is my third. I get it. Well, I'm done. But don't miss the opportunity to bring somebody to the sheriff's office with a pure heart, never been in a scandal, never been fired from anywhere. And the only people said about me is my accent, like it's a curse or disease. You know what? That's my plátano, la mancha de plátano, como el cookie. And I'm proud of it, of be like that. So thank you, and God bless you all.
Thank you, Mr. Fernandez. Now, Mr. Black.
The sheriff's race is probably one of the most important races in this county. So please do your research. Don't do it on social media. My phone number is 407-709-9326. So if you got a question about me, don't believe it on social media. I don't get on social media. I don't send out all these mailers that are starting to come out, that'll probably come out. I call it the mudslinging. I'm not a part of that. If I see something about me and I see them, I'll go ask them. I'm going to say this slow again: true, ethical, experience, leadership. It's important. It's very important. Research the candidates, and you'll find it. And I'm sure most of them have their phone numbers on there. Call them and ask them questions. Call me and ask me questions. I won't get on a debate with you about social media. I'll do it in person with you, over the phone. I'd rather do it in person, not over the phone. The sheriff's race, again, very, very important. We used to be respected, highly respected at the Osceola County Sheriff's Office. Sheriff Hansel left us a magnificent office at the Osceola County Sheriff's Office. It's not so magnificent anymore, but we do have magnificent people working there, and that actually yearn for great leadership and for a pathway to get to where they want to get to career.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much.
so
Thank
much.
you. And I want to implore all of you here tonight, the candidates that are here, on Alianza social media, there's still lots of questions coming in from folks who are watching online. So if you could, afterwards, whether it's tonight, tomorrow, look at those questions that are addressed possibly with your name on it, and get on there and have that direct conversation like you were saying. So check that out, because there's some still questions that were coming in. Absolutely.
Thank you, Yvette. And I want to ask the audience to give another round of applause to the candidates here. And before we close out, I want to also appreciate the hard work of our team at Alianza, starting with our Deputy Director, Jose Rodriguez, in the back. Carla Rivera here in the front. Ángel Sepúlveda.
Hey!
Henry in the back with the cameras. Padre Hoover. Osmer, also with the camera. This team is doing an amazing job. This team is doing an amazing. Diana in the back over there. Bendito. Hiding behind the real big guy. front. I want to thank all of them because they're doing a fantastic job. All of this is being broadcast live on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and also on YouTube. All of you, please, if any questions that were left out, it's still a long evening. You can put your questions in there still, and I ask the candidates to please visit our website and respond directly to our audience. It was very busy, the questions coming in. We wish we could ask them all. And then to end, I want to pass it over to Yvette again and close us out tonight.
Thank you on behalf of Alianza and Spectrum News. We really appreciate your time. And if there's one thing that I want to add on a personal level, whenever craziness happens and there's crime and press conferences and children are missing, whatever, I have to tell you as a news media, it is not easy on us. And I don't know what during the pandemic, we all became a little bit more soft, I think. And we have cried behind the scenes with some of your law enforcement officers. And, you know, we've been touched by it personally, and it's not easy for us either. So just know that we want to be respectful and create that open channel of communication. But if there's one thing we learned through the pandemic, it's time. We need to have more time to have these moments, to have these conversations, not a 30-second clip on social media, but a 2-hour conversation that Alianza has dedicated time and resources and on social media. And for that, I'm very thankful. And I don't have to work at 3 a.m. because I'm here tonight. So thank you.
Well, and we have to also thank you, Yvette, for coming and joining us. This is the second debate. The second debate you join
I
us.
love
And
Osceola.
Spectrum News 13.
Thank you.
Thank
It's
them
an
for
honor.
allowing you to come here and spend your evening with us, your long day.
It's an honor, and hopefully we can do many more. So thank
And
you.
finally, my last thank you to my friend Nancy Rosado, who is on our board of directors. This woman is also a policewoman. I've understood policing a lot better because of my friendship with Nancy. And Nancy has been an amazing supporter of our work at Alianza. And I want everyone here to give Nancy a huge applause.
Tiny but mighty. Tiny
Y
but
con
mighty.
eso, buenas noches.
Buenas noches.
We love